has authored numerous books, including Radical Sun, Indoctrination You, and The Professors, the 101 Most Dangerous Academics. He earned a Bachelor of Arts in English from Columbia University and a master's degree in English literature at the University of California, Berkeley. Today, he will be speaking on rules for radicals, what constitutional conservatives should know about Saul Alinsky. Please join me in welcoming David Horowitz.
Good morning. I've been asked not to speak too long, so I brought along small notes. What constitutional conservatives should know about Saul Alinsky and radicals? Conservative.
Oh yeah, that's
conservative
exactly.
outlook
They should raise your hackles, he who is pale. They should.
is rooted in
This
the
is
past.
entirely all right-wing nonsense.
Conservatives are concerned with who we have been, and therefore who we are, and therefore what it takes to govern us well and to create a reasonably productive and reasonably harmonious. Harmonious almost sounds like a left-wing word right there. I'm a little delusional.
Oh, this is going to be a fucking
Societies.
treat.
And therefore, conservatives are concerned about principles, and inherent in principles are limits. Limits, the way you have to limit human behavior and the way you have to limit the human beings that limit us, the government. That's why it's about limited government. For conservatives, the root cause of social problems is us. That's the basic orientation of a conservative outlook.
Okay, so are we getting?
Radicals,
We're not getting any more grain. We're getting less grain. God damn it, we
completely
need more
different
bread,
orientation.
more phones.
Oriented towards the future. And of course, there is no the future. They're oriented towards an imaginary future, a future in which they can put everything into place as they see fit, and which is a form of, or would be a form of human perfection if it were realized. Radicals speak of social justice as they.
Goddamn right we do,
Be
bitch.
such a thing.
What do you mean by that, you goddamn piece of shit?
Source
Hold
of
on.
problems.
Hold on one goddamn second. What the fuck do you mean if social justice was possible? If you just got the fuck out of the way and stopped being an obstructionist little cunt, maybe we would actually have something. Sorry. Not sorry. Continuing.
They're not going to solve them, are they? Because the radical, and I don't think, if you have been a conservative all your life, you can probably not, would be a huge effort, and I've found few conservatives who want to take the time out to do it, to put themselves in the leftist mindset, a radical mindset, and see the way they see the world. I'm often asked by conservatives, how can they hate America? It's such a great place. How could they not see
Like they really
the
don't
Middle
understand
East,
anything.
Israel is a democracy, it's tolerant, it has 1 million Muslim Arabs living there with more rights than in all of the Muslim, in any Muslim country.
God,
And
this
on
is
the other side,
painful.
You have religious fanatics who want to purge the world of infidels.
Okay.
How is
well,
it difficult to know which side
fuck's.
to be?
Oh my god,
Yeah.
this. I wanna just strangle this godforsaken shithole. This guy is giving me cancer. Okay, so I know we're all already aware of this, but like, how do we say America is bad? Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's a capitalist hellscape and most of the population is living in poverty at this point. Or maybe you know that the fact that the wealth inequality is so bad that basically we're living in a desert and only one person has any water. Yeah, he has all of the public speaking ability of a wet turd on a dry pile of straw.
The answer is that, of course, radicals don't see the reality.
The radicals don't see real. Of course not. Of course not. That'd be too easy. If we saw reality.
Privileges that we have as Americans, thanks to the founders and the constitutional framework they created. What they're looking at is America versus heaven.
I'm sorry, what?
Well, we lose.
America versus heaven? No. Okay, even if I take what you mean to say as like, even if I take it to say that, fucking hell, this guy's got me flustered out of my goddamn mind. Okay, even if we take what he said and extrapolate something like reasonable out of it, what he's saying is leftists, progressives, the radicals in this case, we want the world to be better, is what we're saying. We want there to be some level of goodness in the world for people other than, some minority of the human race. We want to level the playing field. And we want to elevate the rest of the world because of it. So he thinks that just because that there is an inherent issue with the world in that there is inequality. And we want to stop that inequality. Well, we want to live in heaven. And there's no way you can do that, right? No. You can. For fuck's sake. Just increase social welfare. Like, just be kind to other people. Create policies that actually, work with the community around you rather than against it. Shit like that. Just basic fundamental the most basic shit that, a kindergartner can understand. Should we let people go hungry? No, people should have food. That would be the best way to start. If you imagine heaven in, the Judeo-Christian sense. No, fuck that. Not the Judeo-Christian sense, because I think that there is probably a fundamental disconnect between, the Judaists, the Judaism's idea of heaven and Christianity's idea of heaven. So if we just take, the what he's actually meaning, which is, the white Christian idea of heaven, this perfect paradise, what does that even mean? He means that there is a place free of suffering and where you worship God. Okay, well, we'll take away the worship of God because you cannot impose a religious idea on somebody else. They are free to pursue their own religious ideals. So what are we left with? A place without suffering. Man, I bet we could get really goddamn close on this world if we actually fucking tried. Fuck you, David Horowitz.
So the radical... Marx, actually, in the 18th Brumaire, quotes Goethe's Mephistopheles saying, everything that exists deserves to perish. That is the mentality of the radical.
No, that is the reality of the world. Every single thing on this planet will inevitably change into something on which it is not. That is how time functions. A tree will eventually die, will fall over, or be burned. it will then either become biomass for other creatures, fungus, insects, mosses, plants, or it will become material for further other things in the world, whether that is, I don't know, some level of like chemical alteration that changes the charcoal into nutrients for the ground, or anything like that. Everything is destined to end. Every human will die. And if that is too small of a timescale for you, the sun will eventually consume the Earth and turn it into plasma before exploding and spreading that plasma into nebular dust across the solar system, which will eventually recondense into a different star. Nothing is forever.
Things should be swept away so that we can create a world where there's no inequality. How do you do that? I mean, no inequality, no racism, no sexism, no homophobia, no poverty, no war. That's the radicals' fantasy. And that's how they judge the present and
yes,
everything.
And you should judge by that, because that is an ideal to hold to.
The future. There are no limits. Human potential is good, and it's locked in by all the oppressive structures, or as they see them, oppressive structures of the social order. They have contempt for structure and process.
No, we don't have contempt for structure. We don't have contempt for structure and process. We have contempt for unequal structure and bigoted processes. We have contempt for things that harm people.
How somebody like Barack Obama, who has been the beneficiary of all of America's greatness and goodness,
for fuck's sake, go away.
Came from difficult family beginnings, to Harvard, became president of the United States, how he could have spent his adult years as a lawyer for Acorn, which is an organization convicted of greatest election frauds in the history of the United States. Well, it's because if you're a radical, you think elections are a fraud to begin with.
No, elections are not fraudulent in and of themselves. Also, what was this, Acorn, did he say? I'm Googling this now. Acorn election. Acorn is a community-based advocacy organization that was founded in 1970 and shut down in 2010. It faced allegations of voter fraud related to voter registration device drives conducted by the organization. Right. So, let's see. The allegations included failing to adequately monitor and supervise its employees, turning in duplicate registration cards, turning in registration cards for fictional characters, and turning in registration cards filled out by children. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Case studies is a sampling of case studies in which Acorn or its employees were convicted of crimes. In 2009 and 2011, a former field director and former regional director and Acorn itself were convicted of conspiracy to commit crime of compensation for registration of voters in Nevada. It turned in 21 fraudulent registration forms. Okay. 21. Yeah, right. Imagine thinking Obama's right. Obama was like milk toast liberal, maybe even like on one thing had like half a progressive idea, and that was the idea of like healthcare for everybody in some form. And then like that was shut down by Republicans pretty hardcore as well. Let's see. In 2009, Leota Lewis pleaded guilty to repeatedly registering individuals when she worked for Acorn. Okay, that's one person. I bet you that couldn't have possibly been very many. In 2008, 8 former Acorn employees pleaded guilty to registration fraud. Okay, 8 employees. So far we have 9 people and 21 fraudulent registration forms. This is what the right gets really, outraged about. Man, this dozens, dare I say, dozens of fraudulent forms in a country of 300 some odd million. 3 former workies pled guilty to registration fraud. 2 people were sentenced to community service for voter registration fraud. Okay, yeah. Okay. The Acorn thing's a total red herring. This guy can suck my chode.
So, by committing fraud, you're just correcting a fraud.
How are you not? What the fuck is he talking about?
The,
Do not rule like a ruler, and you are blameless.
who was Saul Alinsky? Saul Alinsky was a Chicago radical who
Did Saul die?
I too hope to publish truths I can
came
be
to
proud
adulthood
of.
in the 30s. He was a sociology
Yeah, he died in
graduate student at the University of
1972.
Chicago,
Okay.
and did studies of
Those who make
the Al Capone mob, and adopted as his teacher Frank Nitti. Frank Nitti was a guy that Kevin Costner threw off the top of the building. He was the
Look
enforcer.
busy, people.
I said,
Whoa. What in the fuck? Kevin Costner threw someone off a building? Hold on. Kevin Costner throwing someone out of the window? Okay, this looks like it was some sort of movie that I clearly didn't know about.
Frank Nitti was my teacher.
Yeah, the Acorn debacle.
It's
Oh boy, that debacle that
contribution.
included dozens of people. Oh man.
To the radical assault on our culture and our society was this. He was a fellow traveler, that is, of the communists. That is, he did not. Fellow travelers were leftists who endorsed the goal, the fantasy future, and if you believe in the fantasy of a socialist future, then you condemn America and capitalist societies as a species of hell. He shared that view, but fellow travelers didn't go along with the means. He thought the communists were too dogmatic and too rigid.
Dogmatic and rigid, yeah, that's what I would call
we call
communists.
it anti-communist, which means he was an anti-American, anti-Western democracy,
I'm sorry, what?
Judeo-Christian.
Anti-communist means that you're against the... What? What? I'm gonna let that one sit. Let that one sit. For fuck's sake, I can't.
And so forth. He was also very critical of the New Left. I was part of the New Left, and all the bad things that you know about the new left, the left of the 60s, and I've written with Peter Collier a book called Destructive Generation, which is my view of that left. It had one redeeming grace. We said what we were about. You know, we want revolution and we want it now. You know, we want America to lose in Vietnam. We said these things.
I wanted America out of Vietnam.
And
Definitely something
Alinsky
I would
thought we
agree
were
with.
nuts for saying that. And we had slogans, up against the wall, the sky's the limit, off the pigs. Of all the bad things I did in the 60s, I never said off the pigs, but that was the attitude towards the police. Political power grows out of the barrel of a gun. And Alinsky said, what you're doing when you say those things is you're telegraphing to people what you're going to do, what you want to do. And they're going to understand that you're a threat. And that's bad. So what Alinsky said, and Alinsky gives an example from one of his heroes, which is Lenin, where Lenin said that we want the ballot, but when we win the elections, then we'll have the guns, and it'll be a different story. Alinsky said, you don't say political power grows out of the barrel of the gun when the other side has the guns. I actually had a confrontation like that in the 60s with Michael Lerner, the editor of T-Cunt. And he came to me
T-Cunt or T-Can't?
in semi-hysterical mode saying, you have to buy a gun, David. I said to him, Michael, if you could tell me one situation where it's the police or the military against us and we win, I'll consider it.
So I'm actually, I'm not a pro-gun person. Personally, I don't really want one. I don't really feel like it's necessary. Ideally, in a world, the ideal world, we wouldn't have guns. However, in, current day America, some places it's very important for people to have guns. There was actually, I actually recently had a very different, I had a very awakening thought process on this. A lot of gun legislation doesn't stop people that we don't want to have guns, say right-wing terrorist organizations. It doesn't stop them from having guns. It just stops people poor, disenfranchised people or minorities from being able to access the same thing that right-wing terrorist groups would be able to gain. So a lot of gun legislation that increases regulation on guns doesn't really stop the people that we don't want to have guns from having guns. So I'm not sure what the best way of dealing with that is. And I'm probably not being the best advocate for the argument that I heard that changed my position on that. So I probably should, learn how to say it better so I can better advocate for that position if I need to do so. Anyway, I'll say that, again, I don't personally feel like I need to have a gun, but I know that there are places in the U.S. where it would be extremely important for someone to be able to protect themselves in a way if they didn't have other available options. Yeah, exactly. I, for one, would very much appreciate some of my black friends, or even black people who aren't my friends, who live near big KKK meeting groups in Georgia, outside of Atlanta and stuff. I would really like them to be able to shoot back when the KKK comes to take one of them away or something. And in the event of we have some sort of fascist issue that we need to fight back against, having weapons doesn't seem like a bad idea. We can already see that what he is saying is false, because look at what fucking Ukraine is doing. With nothing more than, like, rifles and 1990s technology for anti-tank technology at best, they're holding off the second largest military in the world very fucking effectively. Like, yeah, it's causing a huge amount of infrastructure damage, and their country is going to be brutalized and crippled for decades to come. But, I mean, for fuck's sake, who thought Russia, the world's second largest military, would be stalled in Ukraine? Nobody thought that. Every fucking buddy thought that they would just be like, oh, they might be able to hold out for a week. Motherfucker, it's been like 2.5, 3 months or some shit like that now. Like, they are blowing away expectations and doing it in a way that is really heartening to see. And it kind of goes to show that, like, yeah, Finland probably called it. That's true. Definitely. But yeah, no, like, there's something to be said about the populace being able to fight back against fanatical tyrants. Not to use the rights, not to appropriate right wing propaganda if I have to. Try not to, but it does make a really good point. It does make a really good point.
Oh, he said, oh, well, then you have to buy a handgun for assassinations. Michael Lerner is an
handgun for assassinations.
Posing as a rabbi these days.
Posing as a rabbi? Get the fuck out of here. People can be rabbis.
So Alinsky's, really the main thrust of the Alinsky doctrine is deception, lie. You don't tell people what your agendas are. When you have to win them, when you're winning them over, you tell them, well, government-controlled healthcare would be bad, but completely private would be bad. So we have to do the reasonable thing, and we'll bring Republicans and Democrats together, and we're not the red states or the blue states, we're the United States. All the things that Barack Obama said. You snooker people. Barack Obama is not only an Alinsky disciple, but an Alinsky trainee.
When is this fucking thing
from? Columbia, his first
2014.
Job was with an Alinsky organization. He went through the Alinsky training. He was the
so this is from 2014.
For, another Alinsky.
I guess I can kind of understand the obsession with Obama in 2014, but like, I don't know. I think like the presidential race was starting to start around then. Bernie was around. You'd think they'd focus on someone more like him. No, whatever. Wait, no, sorry. I forgot. I forgot. Obama was black.
Organization, Acorn. That's who he is. When he says community organizer, I'm a community organizer, he means I am a follower of Saul Alinsky, because that's what Alinsky was. It was community organizing is organizing an army, and that's Alinsky's term, not mine.
What brings you here, Master?
I put it all these things in this little booklet. It's organizing a power base. The idea is to create the power to do what you want, with no clear idea of what you want. I will get into what they want, but there really is. There's never been. There were socialist plans. A Frenchman named Fourier had a plan that with these utopian communities in the 19th century, and they all failed. Marx was smarter. He said you can't have a blueprint. And since Marx, there are no serious
Not
radicals
entirely accurate. You can
have
have
attempted to devise
blueprints.
a plan. So their plan really is that everything exists deserves to perish. Their plan, if you get to make a revolution, you know, there are two sides of it. One is taking down the old system, and the other is creating the new. No attention is given to creating the new, so it's
Well, then
really
you're not
a
listening.
form of nihilism. That's what radicalism is about. That's what Alinsky's book, Rules for Radicals. The original title was Rules for Revolution, which is why I used it in the booklet. I did.
No space left here.
Revolutionaries only understand destruction.
A fire broke out.
Well, they
Oh,
understand
fuck me.
destruction
Of course.
deception, which is one of the means. One of the means.
Oh, I always forget to put a fucking thing over here, and this place always burns down. Happened to my other game
Alinsky's
too.
idea then was you pose as, we called it in the 60s, boring from within. You pose as a liberal. I was appalled when in the early 70s, it was really during the McGovern campaign, all my communist friends, all the people who, well, like Tom Hayden, who advocated liberated zones in America. He wanted guerrilla warfare in American streets, suddenly appeared as Democrats and liberals in 1971, 1972. Because we hated
Forgive
liberals.
me, but I don't
And that was
believe
another good thing about
anything about this
the new
person
left. That's
or
what
anything
kept
you're
it
saying.
smaller and prevented it from ever getting to the White House, because we despised liberals.
This guy is a fucking lunatic.
Because we felt that liberals were would co-opt you into the system. But Alinsky got very close to Bobby Kennedy.
Yeah.
Became part of the anti-poverty program.
Yeah, this guy had friends like I have a girl.
Financed
Like,
these radical
this guy has
organizations
friends like I have, like,
taxpayer funds. I
extraordinarily hot lovers in
People
New
used
York.
to ask me when I ceased to be a leftist, who funded you? Moscow, Havana? Well, I'm sure there was money from Moscow and Havana, but that's not who funded us. Who funds the left is you, through taxpayer dollars. People were outraged when Acorn was exposed.
And we went over this.
Because
Acorn
they
was
got $53
exposed.
million. Remember that? $53 million in federal funds starting in 1994. That ring a bell? 1994. That's when Republicans took over the House and the purse strings. Republicans funded Acorn, made it the largest radical organization in the history of the country. And that's mainly because conservatives
Winky
don't know how to put
face.
this politely, but are just not paying attention. And I changed the
Really
mission
need to figure
statement
out
of my center.
Why am I fucking...
It sounded like what all conservative organizations sound like. They're very positive and good.
Place is booming.
The principles of constitutional principles, private property, rule of law. That's all well and good.
It's a
But
surprising
we're at war,
spaceship.
as I will get to in a moment.
Starting to flow in.
So my center is now called, its mission is the defense of free societies,
The creme, you're actually
whose
providing
cultural and economic foundations are being attacked
useful
by an
shit.
international left.
That's good.
That's the reality we're in.
The fire has been vanquished.
I would like
Fire has been
conservatives to
overcome.
leave 10%
Fuck yes.
off the positive
Here.
approach to a
This
certain negative
needs-
one. There's a threat here, and it's an internal threat.
Ooh.
that
Needs so
has
much
to be met.
fucking shit. Soap going. That should raise happiness.
A prototypical Alinskyite is the former Green Job czar, who is now part of the
Green Job czar?
Grand
What?
Trust of the Democratic Party, Van
What
Jones.
in the... Okay.
He's with the...
I'm sorry, I can't follow half of this because it just he has all of the fucking, like, as you said, he was pale. This guy has all the fucking public speaking ability of a wet blanket covering a piece of dog shit. But, like, he's also just, like, going off on, like, at this point, 8-year-old conspiracy theory fucking nonsense that I can't keep track of. At least if he was talking about QAnon, I'd know what the fuck he meant. This is some seriously fucked up whack shit, yo. Ugh. Okay, we're gonna keep trying to plow through this, but, I mean, oh boy.
Center for American Progress.
At this point, I think I'd rather listen to Stephen.
Which is John Podesta's operation.
At least he has fucking...
And is the brains trust
a pair of pipes on it.
of the Democratic Party. Van Jones...
It's a right-wing mixtape.
Vocal, self-described communist. And this was not in the 1930s, but in the 1990s and into 2000. He belonged to a Maoist revolutionary vanguard.
Not Maoist.
Party that is
anything but them.
Bolsheviks, called Storm. And were Maoists. And then he had a conversion experience to Alinskyism. And what he said, how he described it was,
the fuck? Dude, this guy is just psychopathic.
I've given up the cheap satisfactions of the radical pose for the deep satisfactions of radical ends. So if you...
That's a deepity.
Well, he's such a smooth talker now that Meg Whitman, the Republican candidate for governor in California, sang his praises, thought that he was just a wonderful person, and that's because she had no idea
we're in a good spot.
Who he was.
Want to start growing?
One of the, I think, probably the best thing that I've done in the quarter of a century that I've devoted to atonement for my youthful sins is creating an encyclopedia of the left on the web, which explains exactly what people like Van Jones are.
Whoa, this guy has a
you must always
encyclopedia.
Slogan of the Communist Party.
Oh, this is...
Which was when Joseph...
This is going to be too good.
Was peace, jobs, and democracy. How many people have seen The Invasion of the Body Snatchers? Well, that film was made, the original film was made during the 50s and was about the communists, but it could be about anybody, not anybody, but it could be about a lot of people that call themselves liberal today. They're pod people, basically.
Guy is fucking sociopathic.
The New Left, actually, it was an issue of SDS's New Left Notes. There was an article by an SDS radical in the 60s.
An SDS
which said
radical.
The issue
oh my God.
is never the issue.
Okay, hold on, everybody. Hold on. Nope, we're not going to do that. That means you can see everything. We're going to minimize this real quick. We're going to look up David Horowitz. David Horowitz I want to see this. I want to see. Oh, hold on. It's not free at all. What? He said it was free. It's not free at all, is it, Steve?
The issue
I know who Steve is
always the revolution. What that means is and this is a core principle of Alinskyism, that the way you view issues is always instrumental. Does it further the revolution? You may have noticed. You may have noticed that even though there are something like 600 women's studies programs, which are
I can do this guy's stick, but for the
parties in the university organizing for feminism,
you got a fish?
there are no protests
I'm not running out of fish.
over the unbelievable abuse and oppression of women in the Muslim world.
Oh god,
None.
it's on the Muslims again.
Ayan Hirsi Ali, a courageous warrior against Islamic oppression of women.
Oh,
I asked her,
no.
I saw that last month in Philadelphia.
Freeism, yeah.
If she's ever
I like
been
beer.
invited
Beer
to
is
a
something that I
women's
like.
studies
Yeah.
department to talk.
Hold on, let me see. Let me see if I can pretend to be this guy, but for like the right. Oh god, what would they have been on about right now? This would have been 2014. The right wing would have been all about God, had we not gotten fucking what's his name by then? No, I can't do it. I can't put my face. I cannot put my head in his headspace. It hurts too much. Oh god, I'm not sure I can finish this. I'm not sure I can do any more about this. This is hurting. This is legitimately hurting my brain. Like my gameplay is suffering. Like I lost $20,000 listening to this guy talk. Like, I honestly don't know how much more I could take. It's so bad. Stretch out my neck. Yeah, right. Well, based on the background that this guy is like talking in, I'm guessing this speech was done on like the outside of a lawn and garden shop. You know, like proto Trump's or proto Rudy Giuliani's Four Seasons debacle. Just outside somewhere between like a street light and like some blue open bar sign or something. I don't know. I've hit play. I'm gonna hit play.
Talk about the oppression of women in Islam.
Oh, that's right. He's talking about the oppression of women. No, it's not the oppression of women in Islam, in so much as it is moreover the oppression of women in any far-right system. There are plenty of people who are Islamic that don't treat women like... There are plenty of people who are Muslim, pardon me, who do not treat women like shit. The Bible has as much bad shit in it as the Quran does. You know, you can probably quibble about the total number of calls to action or whatever, but like, Jesus fucking Christ. I'm not one for religion. In fact, I put, you know, not to say not to say I'm been vocal about it, but I am on record of being, you know, fairly anti-religious. Personally, I don't think religion is a great thing, at least not organized religion. But for fuck's sake, dude, people can believe what they want to believe. Now, should patriarchal systems be abolished? Yeah, but that's because human beings are equal to each other and should be treated as such. Oh wait, hold on, this is that idealism going back to trying to compare Earth to heaven again.
And
Go fuck yourself.
she said once, but it turned out that it was an American Enterprise Institute benefactor who was either a trustee at UC San Diego or whatever he was and got her one talk,
Flagship at your
one
service.
talk in all these years. And that's because the issue is never the issue. Feminists are not about women.
What?
They're part of the left. They're about destroying American capitalism, or imperialism as they would prefer to call it. And they see the Muslim world and the jihad against us, however much they may deplore this or that tactic, as a movement for liberation from American oppression.
What?
The issue is never the issue. The issue is always the revolution. And therefore, you should.
Sorry, I had to stop and check to make sure I wasn't fucking bleeding from the nose. I think that sentence gave me a stroke. I can't feel much of anything, right? Oh god, it hurts. Oh, it hurts. Can you explain to me, Mr. Horowitz, how feminism is not not for women? What did you say?
Should understand that green jobs is not about the environment.
It got dumber. I didn't think it could get dumber. And then it got dumber. Wait a second. Do they actually think we're lying?
To detain any who defile her sovereign laws.
Attention for the Admiral.
Do they actually think that we don't believe in the things we say we believe in?
I could simply go to press.
Yeah, that's fine. Do they... They really don't think we actually want a better world. Holy shit. Is that, like, what does that come from? I'm honestly asking, what the fuck does that come from? That they think we don't want a better world. Why wouldn't you want a better world? How do you look at human history? How do you look back at everything that's happened in the world and throughout all of society? I know that I've heard this line before where they'll say, like, we want to conserve the world that we have. But, like, I guess I'm exasperated at this point. I've been listening. This guy has broken me. Like, the absolute, like, sycophantic drivel that has been slowly draining out of this guy's mouth like bud out of a fucking, I don't know, like catfish or something. It's just broken me. I don't understand. You look back at all of human history, and you look back at all of society, and you see how far we've come from, like, the feudal era, or, like, even before that. You look back to, like, the darkest times in history, where, like, plague was ravishing the world and ravaging the world. Ravishing. Well, ravishing. Anyway, where plagues and fucking disease and famine and, like, yeah, we have that now, but there are so many people that live lives that are so beyond anything anyone would have imagined just 200 years ago. And you go back to a fucking oil baron in 1822 and you go, hey guys, oh, your diet consists of meat and potatoes, basically? Oh, you're getting a little bit of fish and some ice from, like, the north every now and... give them a can of Coca-Cola. Or, like, give them a Subway sandwich and watch their brains explode, right? Show them a flashlight. Just try and, like, talk to anybody from 1822 about anything in our current world and how, like, life works. They would just their heads would explode. It wouldn't even be funny. It would be, like, totally sad, yo. But no. Apparently not. Apparently... Oh, for fuck's sake. Apparently... Oh. God damn. Could we be proud of our achievements as a species? Hell yeah. Should we want to retreat back to a worse time in life? God, no. Should we maybe try and progress as a species? Oh no, did I say the wrong terminology? Did I scare them? I think I might have scared them.
What Green Jobs is about, it was having a communist, Van Jones, recruit an army of leftists at taxpayer expense. And believe me, it's still about that. And the healthcare system, it's not about delivering quality healthcare, the Obamacare. It's about control of everybody's life and also putting people on the payroll. Alinsky, actually, there was one of the articles I used as a resource was a New Republic article by Ryan Leitze, who interviewed Alinsky trainers and people who had been trained by Alinsky himself. And they described to him how idealistic people, because the seduction of the left is these, wonderful social justice, peace, harmony, peace, jobs, and democracy. Just, so you get a lot of people in who are salivating to that bell, or those bells.
Salivating to the... Really? You're pulling a goddamn fucking Pavlov reference out?
A community organizer. Why do you want to be a community organizer? And the answers would, to make the world a better place, to whatever, end racism. And he would scream at the person who said that. He said, no. You want to be a community organizer to get power. That's what it's all about. Power.
Well, I mean, okay, so even if what he just said was 100% true about what I think he's talking about Saul said, that's still how you get shit done. Like, living, like, community organizing for the sake of growing a nice community is an admirable goal. Building good communities is admirable. But there is also a means, like, of course, when you build a community, you build some level of power. Because that community can wield its collective power, whether that be social influence or economic force, or like whatever it happens to be, right? Those guys can leverage that against people who would seek to harm them or to try and change others' minds. It's like geopolitics. We don't really want a world where there's only where every single person is like armed to the teeth and hating everyone else. No, we want everybody to kind of be like super dependent on everyone else so that like war doesn't break out, because even like as shitty as like some economic trade deals and like dealing slowly with the economics of shit, like that's still preferable to bombing the ever-loving fuck out of another country and killing hundreds of thousands of people. At least I personally think so. So, yeah, you'd want to be able to have power. Kind of an important thing, I think.
This is the Alinsky's Rules for Revolution is a nihilistic tract, Machiavellian and nihilistic. It's everything that one would regard as evil from any ethical standpoint. But of course, it's all redeemed by the fantasy future. And this is what the left is about. But Alinsky is a particularly frank expression of this.
Flagship awaiting
The
instructions.
Stalinists actually thought that they planned the economy. They had vague ideas enough about the future, but
Okay, well, for first off, don't compare Stalinist fucking ideals and the USSR to left-wing people. The USSR was an authoritarian fascist regime that wore red paint and is continuing to do so in places like China and Vietnam, where the government has this very keen grasp and the parties have their very strong hold on the population. It is what we would call a bad time.
it was much more structured and self-respecting than Alinsky.
Stand to
was.
attention.
What organizes the Alinsky radical is the hatred of the so-called haves. America is a have society. There are haves and have-nots. This is it's just another way of formulating the Marxist idea of a ruling class.
We've run out of cabins.
Well, but if you think about America, I mean, I think that something like 70% of the millionaires in this country are first generation, which means they made it. It's absurd.
What?
To think of this as a country of haves and have. Now, of course, there are some people who just have. They were born with it. They don't do anything.
Oh yeah, no, that's very true. Yeah, the American right can't tell the difference between a condom and a sandwich bag, so you know. All they know is you don't want either. No, that's not a deep cut to some weird Republican anti-sandwich thing. That's just me being silly. But yes, you're totally right. They can't tell the difference between Stalinism and fucking socialist anarchy or anything like that. Oh god, my brain. This is legitimately killing me.
But there are so many more people with a lot of money who are investing it all the time, creating jobs, creating wealth for everybody. the proper way to think about the divisions of our societies is the cans and the cannots, the do's and the do-nots, the wills and the will-nots.
You reached a
That's
new
what it's about. But if you
milestone.
think about it that way, then that's the end of radicalism. The whole mythology of radicalism is exploded. And of course, this Alinsky idea, I mean, he says that
Now's your moment.
my book, Rules for
Action
Radicals, is
must be
modeled on
taken.
Machiavelli's The
All
Prince,
I ever
which
desired was a place to
how
live
rulers should rule.
and
The
work.
difference is that my book is about taking away the power of the
Seductive
haves, and his book
charms,
is about
very
how the haves
modest.
can keep it. Then where does this reactionary view of the world as rigidly, or society as rigidly divided into rulers and rule come from? Well, it comes from the Communist Manifesto, which is the most read, most assigned text. I don't know this for a fact, but I know this from studying, being at 300 universities and asking questions. The most assigned text in the
course,
university
you don't
today
want
is the
it, you should
Communist
share it.
Manifesto. I've met innumerable students who've had to read it 3 and 4
You
times.
are generous with your
Different
The
concepts.
competitor raised a settlement.
And you
I'm
remember
sorry,
what
hold
the
on.
Communist Manifesto, how it begins.
He says that it's the most assigned piece of text, and then immediately says that he has no idea that that's true, and proceeds to use the weakest form of evidence, anecdotal, to back up that. Oh. I think it's safe to say this guy is full of shit, and I don't want to listen to him anymore. I'm done. I'm not taking it. We're gonna pause that game. I'm gonna minimize this. We're gonna find something else to watch. You know what? At least if we watch Steven Crowder. We can at least yell at him for something stupid, right? Or maybe not. I actually don't care anymore. Fuck that guy. What about was it? Oh god, I don't even care anymore. Do you care? I don't care. That's only halfway in. Like I honestly can't. I can't deal with that shit anymore. We could yell at tankies. We could watch a tanky video.
Hi, everybody.
Any of these striking your fancy? Not sure if you've ever heard of Luna Oi. Some seriously shitty weird shit. I can't deal with that today. What about I don't really know what to do, dude. I don't know what to, oh god, no, get off my fucking screen. Yeah, I don't know what to watch, y'all. What's my recommended watch list look like? A whole bunch of nonsense. That's right. Watch Irish people eat chocolate. Yeah. Turns out I just watch most of what I watch. Ooh, interstellar space travel on Kerbal Space Program 2.
I remember plugging in our first engine, the Crucible. The one of the first like interstellar engines that we.
That is a fantastically funny way to get banned from Twitter. Yeah, no, online leftism is fucking weird, yo. Let's watch a 14-minute video on the Kerbal Space Program 2 interstellar
rated
travel.
Engines that we put in the game, and it didn't
I mean, at
fit
least
in
this
the
will be
game
interesting.
as one part, and that's just the engine.
Holy fuck. It's a big-ass engine.
This is the only game where you travel continuously from multi-light-year stars all the way down to the surface of an orbital body with sub-millimeter precision. This scale is so phenomenally different than any other game out there.
I'm so stoked.
Everything in this game is way, way bigger. Not just a little bit bigger, not 2 times bigger. The human mind is not designed to even comprehend the distances we're talking about here.
You're right. Fucking
is
isn't.
like sitting on the Earth and trying to aim a bow and arrow and hit the moon. Interstellar travel is like trying to hit a grape on the surface of the moon.
Very early in the development of KSP2, we understood that we wanted to have interstellar travel. You look at a map of
That's
the
very
local
true.
area of the galaxy, and you see, like in the real world, closest star is about 4 light years away. You have no idea how far a light year actually is. This is one of the profound lessons that this game is going to teach to you.
Yep. You're goddamn right.
Once you have braved all of the challenges of the Kerbolar system, you will now be able to build a sort of arc and carry it to an entirely new star, build a fresh new KSC, and you will have an entire new set of planets to play with. We have a little more liberty as we get away from the Kerbolar system to get a little more weird with it. And we are providing a window into how do those worlds look. The things I've seen in some of these show and tell meetings that the environment team is cooking up, it blew my mind when I saw it. Just being able to look out over a horizon that was completely alien to me, that was something outside of my experience, and yet when I looked at it, I could say, that looks like a real place. It was eye-opening.
You're gonna be sitting on the surface of a planet and you're gonna see a little speck of light off in the distance that's only gonna be like a pixel. But that's a star, and that's something you can actually go and visit in the game. And it's going to be fully simulated from point A to point B.
Kerbal, stop! I can only get so erect!
Your destination. That's, I don't think, ever been done before in any game.
Paul Gilster wrote a book called Centauri Dreams. And it is a survey book of every idea anyone ever had as far as getting to another star. I was a little nervous to talk to him the first time that we spoke. Are you aware of Kerbal Space Program? Have you heard it talked about before?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I know all about what you guys are involved with, and I love it. I just think it's terrific. So I'm very familiar.
I'm going to pause this real quick because I want to get in before they start talking about one of my all-time favorite ideas for getting across, like, interstellar, like, distances, which is just to, like, blow up nuclear bombs in front, like, behind you a little bit. Not with the Orion system, but with a solar sail to capture the photons emitted from the nuclear explosion and accelerate you away from it. And you just keep dropping these nukes behind you, blowing them up as you just, this, like, big flashes of light as you slowly accelerate out of the system.
Your name was the first thing that popped into my head when we were asking around, like, who should we talk to about this? So I really appreciate you having written that.
Well, I appreciate those kind words, and I'm glad to help in any way I can. Sure.
So I wanted to ask you a few sort of general questions sort of your book and to some extent your blog are kind of my most recent exposure to current thinking on the subject, on the sort of state of the art of this question. But the first question I wanted to ask you, when people ask you, why should we do this? What is your answer?
I get asked that a lot. You know, we're not talking about taking arcs full of 1 million people to another star. There's no reason. Really, I think that it's just going to happen because explorers are going to want to go. It's in our DNA at some level that some of us will do it.
It's really hard for us on Earth to grasp
Very true.
what the distance between stars.
It might be the only ethical way to use nuclear bombs. And I think that, like, as a side point there, we should really, like, that should be how we de-arm the entire world of nukes, is just through, like, scientific exploration of other worlds by accelerating objects out of the solar system.
Stars is like, and what that environment is like. There's no light, there's no oxygen. People often compare it to maybe sailing across the Pacific Ocean in a sailing ship, but it's far worse than that. It's far longer, it's far more...
Speaking of the Orion, I think it's the Orion system. You can see it here. So, you see how there are, like, these actuators here on the back of the ship? Like, these things that look like shock absorbers? It's exactly what they are. This particular thing right here drops up, like, a nuclear explosive out the back of it, which explodes and pushes the big flat part forward, which then the shock absorber absorbs. That lateral velocity is then translated to accelerate the ship forward, and another bomb is dropped behind it, and this system just it just like pogo sticks on nuclear explosions out. I'm not sure if they'll show you this in this one, but I can pull up Scott Manley video. Does a really good job on this.
And if you're ever gonna try to cross that...
Oh, there it is! Right there! That's exactly what I was talking about. See those big fucking explosions? That's those explosions pushing the thing forward.
We're gonna need to marshal our entire civilization's resources. There's gonna be so much international cooperation, cutting-edge technology development,
yes!
cutting-edge engineering. Everything that we use to go on that mission will need to be developed, well, not from scratch, but as a very significant delta to our current technologies. And that's really exciting and has the potential to impact so many areas of humanity. And that's cool.
Yeah, it is.
It is incredibly impractical for us to directly go visit another star system, just because of the sheer amount of time it takes even light to get there. There are definitely solutions that involve generational ships or, very efficient fuel sources over long periods of time, but this is a leap. This is a different setup.
To me, the most compelling reason to make KSP2 interstellar was to create unknown regions for exploration. The Kerbolar system is a known quantity. We can't think of anything more exciting than the unknown. And we think discovery as an impetus for flight is maybe the strongest possible driving force.
You are traveling through deep space where you are just going. It goes for like days, weeks, potentially months, and you've got a little, without a whiteboard, it's going to be a little confusing to explain. Fun fact, I originally, when I was a child, wanted to be an architect, and then I learned you had to know how to draw to be an architect. So I decided I didn't want to be an architect. I'm going to go into game design. Now look at me. The distance between your target and you is so absurdly huge compared to those intercept burns. You are basically trying to thread a needle from 10,000 kilometers.
I hope that when players are traveling these interstellar distances, they really get a sense for that vastness of space. I want them to feel cold and alone
there has been a need to overhaul the maneuvering system so that we can depict the behavior of vehicles that are burning for long periods of time. You're tiptoeing into something called vortictochrone trajectories. They kind of look like unfurling spirals. You can see this is where your vehicle will be over the course of a given burn, and then it will coast. You also need to be able to plan a deceleration burn at the other end so that ultimately you can intercept a star. We also have what is called torch ship engines, which are not necessarily optimized for interstellar travel, but are very, very good for getting to another place inside a solar system very, very quickly. It's often less efficient, but it is really cool. So this new maneuvering system kind of serves both purposes. Dr. Michael Dodd has spent a lot of time thinking about how to visually represent those kinds of trajectories and also how to get them on rails so that you can time warp. One of the major challenges of playing KSP1, you'd start a burn and then you could like go eat a meal and then come back and you'd still be doing the burn.
Yep.
KSP2, because it's so important to be able to burn for very long periods of time, we had to completely overhaul the system so that you can time warp while burning. So that's all Dr. Dodd was critical to.
The level of precision required is astronomically larger. It's so much harder to plan a trajectory that's going to intercept another star than it is to, say, intercept the moon. We're working on completely redesigning the UI and UX system to make this experience like seamless for the player and also kind of intuitive.
If you successfully navigate launching a rocket into space for the
I just want to say, like, because it needs to be said, if their goal is to make like some of the most difficult mathematics you can do intuitive, they will literally be making rocket science easy. And like the old adage of, oh, it's not rocket science, can be like accessible. Oh.
first time, traveling to the moon for the first time. Interstellar is not going to be that much more complicated. It's just a moon, but it's really, really far away.
There's a kind of vehicle you can build in KSP1, and it's called a grand tour vehicle. You try to make a vehicle that can visit every destination in the Kerbal system. You can now make proper grand tour plus vehicles, functionally motherships, massive interstellar vehicles that are then appointed with a bunch of other smaller vehicles, the purpose of which is to conduct excursions when you arrive at the target star system. A huge long truss, gigantic inertial confinement fusion engine, and then winged vehicles for exploring planets with atmospheres.
Oh no, not the Kraken!
We want your vessels to perform roughly how you would expect based on your experience with KSP1, but under the hood we are making numerous improvements to that experience to make it more performant, more robust, and allow for the scale and scope of vessels that we have here, and allow them to be built without the Kraken getting you. We're killing the Kraken. That is a hell of a claim to make, but you can edit it out. Our ultimate goal is to slay the Kraken. But on top of that, you're going to want to pack some stuff, more than just like your average science module or some snacks. You are building ships that are ferrying an entire colony from the Kerbal system to stars beyond.
You good to put that there?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hold on. You know what? It's actually fine right there. If you,
is it better over here?
See what I have to work with here? Are we good?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
That's not right.
Again, you see what I have to work with.
Wouldn't be Kerbal. Wouldn't be Kerbal.
Hi, Nate.
What's it like working with that guy?
He's a character. No, he's very passionate about this project, and it's something I deeply respect. When we got the opportunity to work on this, Nate specifically stepped up and says, I've put a couple thousand hours into this game is my life, and this will be this will be my opus. And I believed him.
A lot of people play this game because they want to be able to experience a physics simulation and make mistakes and without repercussion. And Kerbal not only encourages that, but makes it viable by having
love
these
her
worlds that are
necklace.
interesting to explore, and it's forgiving, but it's also a really challenging game. And getting the physics right is an extremely difficult technical problem.
I'm also really excited for players to hit their first moment as they kind of bump up against the far reaches of the Kerbolar system, and they have a vessel that is ready to reach the nearest star, and they zoom out and they reach beyond those borders and they see, oh, I've been here for this long, and so much of my journey and so much of my story has been here, and now it's out here. We can't take everyone up into space and just like make them look out the window, but we can give them a simulation of that. And my hope is that if we do that enough with enough people, that can change the course of things.
There's this great photo of Michael Collins orbiting on the command module on Apollo just after the undocking of Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. Earth is in the background. There's this comment that everyone who has ever lived or ever died, with the exception of Michael Collins, is in this photo. If people get into orbit, get to a faraway planet in our game, and are able to think about the scope and scale and say, man, there's bigger problems that we should be solving, as silly as they may be, perhaps like the Kerbals sometimes. But if we could come together and solve some of those big problems and have a really big vision and achieve it, I think that's something we could all stand to take away from it.
I can't wait for KSP 2. So excited. You know what I think we're going to leave the stream on?
From this distant vantage point, the
Carl
Earth
Sagan
might not seem of any particular interest. But for us, it's different. Consider again that dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives. The aggregate of our joy and suffering, thousands of confident religions, ideologies, and economic doctrines, every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization, every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there, on the mote of dust, suspended in a sunbeam. The Earth is a very small stage in a vast cosmic arena. Think of the rivers of blood spilled by all those generals and emperors, so that in glory and triumph they could become the momentary masters of a fraction of a dot. Think of the endless cruelties visited by the inhabitants of one corner of this pixel on the scarcely distinguishable inhabitants of some other corner. How frequent their misunderstandings, how eager they are to kill one another, how fervent their hatreds. Our posturings, our imagined self-importance, the delusion that we have some privileged position in the universe, are challenged by this point of pale light. Our planet is a lonely speck in the great enveloping cosmic dark. In our obscurity, In all this vastness, there is no hint that help will come from elsewhere to save us from ourselves. The Earth is the only world known so far to harbor life. There is nowhere else, at least in the near future, to which our species could migrate. Visit? Yes. Settle? Not yet. Like it or not, for the moment, the Earth is where we make our stand. It has been said that astronomy is a humbling and character-building experience. There is perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human conceits than this distant image of our tiny world. To me, it underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another and to preserve and cherish the pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known.
And with those kind words, we will say goodnight. Hope you all have a good one. Catch you next time. Toodles.